And as you can guess, we're talking about giants as soldiers today. So, I'm going to start off here by stating that I will be building off of information Shad has made, notably the best weapons to use against giants, and the best weapons to use if you are a giant. If you haven't watched either of those, by some act of God, just pause this video, go watch both of them, go say hi to Shad for me, and then you can pop back here, because I'm going to only lightly touch upon what Shad covered. So, first things first, let's establish what I mean by a giant. Because you could have giants from, like, Warhammer Fantasy, where they're 20 times the size of a normal human. They're ridiculously huge. They're like Godzilla. It's nuts. Or we can have the Skyrim kind, which are about double the size of a person. We could have ones that are only 8.5 feet tall. You could have, like, Andre the Giant as an actual honest-to-God giant. For the purposes of this video, we're going to use the Game of Thrones Skyrim style, who are about twice the size, so about 10 to 12 feet tall, in that range. Because it's still very large, but not ridiculously so that we're trying to figure out how why physics is crying in the corner over there. So, let's go down giants' positive traits, like we do. Okay, giants are very strong. Giants appear to have at least human-level endurance, possibly higher. Giants are intelligent. There's a caveat on that. They're not usually shown to be as smart as people, but they're as smart as a dumb person. So this puts them above zombies and many other mindless, brainless, stupid minions. Giants are they understand basic tactics generally. They're you can talk to them. They generally have their own language. They have culture. They build things. They may not be great at any of these, but they do these things. So those are the three big ones. Another one, they're really durable. Okay? They're really durable. It's like killing an elephant. Okay? It's difficult because there's just so much meat in the way of the important bits. And this is compounded on top of them wearing a shirt. Okay? You double the thickness, and you probably would do more than that, of a human shirt on them. We're talking, you have like 3-4 layers of linen equivalent here. You have a crappy gambeson on them already, just by wearing their normal clothes. And if they happen to be in a far northerly, colder climate, they're probably killing bears, tanning the hides, and then just wearing bear hides. There's a full freaking bear hide on those things already. That's already quite thick. They're already wearing, basically, armor. They can be very easily... another bonus here, we're on 5 right now. They are easily armed. Because you can just give them a club. They're perfectly effective with just a big stick and slings. So give them rocks about the size of my head, or, about the size of a basketball or so, and then they just, get a nice length of rope, and you now have walking siege equipment. Giants are. They've got a lot of positives going for them. Now, let's list off some negatives here about giants. First negative. I am willing to bet they eat way more than double what a human does. If I remember correctly, I'm going to use D&D, specifically 3.5 as an example here. I believe it's if you go large, you eat 4 times the amount. As a base rule, I'm pretty sure giants would easily eat 4 times the amount of food as a human does. Possibly, easily more. They're going to eat a lot of food because of how big they are and how many calories they're going to need to move that kind of mass. So that's a problem, logistically speaking. It's not an insurmountable problem, but it means having an entire army of giants is probably unfeasible. Other negatives, they are a bit dim, usually. This, again, depends wildly on the setting, but they're usually a bit dim. They're not the smartest, but that's not it's not insurmountable. I'm not quite sure how big of a negative that is. Honestly, being a bit dim, you could get them to do really stupid things. Like, hey, go charge that forest of pikes. Okay, boss. Hey, no sane person's going to do that, but they're not going to think twice about it. So that could kind of be a mixed blessing there. They're just big. I mean, that's a negative. As ridiculous as that, that's a huge negative. They could trip over a cart, fall face first, and smash another cart. If a human trips over, they just look like an idiot. But if a giant falls over, they can kill people. That's a problem. They may cause morale damage because of that. But then again, on the other side, if it's a positive, they could cause morale damage in the enemy. So, on the whole, I'm thinking there's way more positives to having a couple of giants hanging out with you than not. Depending, of course, on many other things. I mean, maybe they have to eat humans. That would suck. I would not want to work with giants that have to eat people. That would be terrible. But let's get into what you'd actually do with giants. What would you do with giants on the battlefield? Their strengths on the battlefield and their weaknesses on the battlefield. So their first strengths. They're giants. It's why we call them that. They're friggin' huge. They're massive engines of unending destruction. So you get a giant, stick him in a gambeson, and remember, this gambeson is going to be probably twice the thickness, at minimum, of what a normal person is wearing. And seriously, 8 layers or so, because I know some gambesons change in width. So 8 to 10 layers of nice linen is pretty durable already. I mean, those can absorb longbow shots. Not with 100% efficiency, but they can take a longbow shot, and you're probably going to be fine. Whereas a giant is, okay, let's only increase it by half. That's 15 layers of linen right now. 15 freaking layers of linen, plus the fact that they now have probably a solid 1.5 inches, 2 inches of muscle under this. A bow isn't going to kill them, unless you shoot them in the eye or through their mouth if their mouth is open. There's just too much crap in the way. And the giants can protect their eyes by just wearing a helmet. Just, wear a little helmet with some nice little eye rings around it or something. Maybe put like a single bar slit that won't really screw with their vision too much. I mean, it's going to be annoying, but it's going to make it basically impossible to shoot frickin' arrows through there. 'Cause, I mean, like I said, giants are about double everything of a human. Except weight. That goes up, Squarecube Law. Your weight goes up way faster than just size. So a giant's eye is about double that of a human's. Let's make it 3 times. Let's make it 3 times, just to be safer. That's about the size of a horse. Those are pretty small eyes. Especially if it's 10 feet in the air and you're 100, 200 feet back because you don't want to be anywhere near the giant. How do you take them out? This is, I think, the giant's single largest contribution to the battlefield. You have to deal with them, and they're really, really hard to deal with. What do you kill a giant with on an open battlefield? Them just wearing a gambeson makes them nearly unkillable. I mean, you have to get a pike through them, and you don't want to be that close. Now, God forbid somebody makes a suit of chainmail for them to put over the gambeson. Okay, yeah, the gambeson gets thinner because you don't want to have a full suit of full gambeson under that because that'd be way too restrictive in movement. But so for them it'd be like a normal thickness gambeson for humans, like an 8-layer linen gambeson with some riveted mail over it. Like they probably don't even need the sleeves, just the chest really, because they got to armor their legs. So get them some nice thick. And here, they could actually use leather, by the way. Because they could have, like, 1/2-inch thick leather just stuck on their legs. Because you can't cut through that. Yeah, it's going to take some damage, but frankly, it's so thick that level of damage doesn't matter. So, like, us running around in leather was kind of dumb. Because to make it protective, it has to get too thick and it's too restrictive. For them, no. It's just, leather shin guards and some leather thigh guards to just kind of keep their arteries safe from being stabbed through. That's all they need. They just need to get something that's just hard enough but still easy to wear. That'll do it. Just wear some, nice thick linen pants under that and they'll be fine. They'll be near unkillable through hand weapons or anything else. A pike might do it, but you need a lot of pikes. So giants they're just unkillable. Effectively. They're almost unkillable on the battlefield. Except pretending we're in Star Wars and they're an AT-AT. It's the Battle of Hoth. trip the suckers. Because giants can't take falls if physics is in play. If full-on physics are in play, they can't take a fall. Now, me as a human, if I were to fall my entire height, which is about 6 feet, I'll be fine. Now, if I land awkwardly, I could turn an ankle, I could break my wrist or something. It could suck. Okay, I fall 6 feet uncontrolled. This could be kind of lousy. A giant's falling 12 feet and weighs considerably more than I do. Alright, I'm in the 200 pounds range. A giant of just doubled my height is going to weigh... God, hazarding a guess here, because I'm trying to remember how the Squarecube Law works. It's way higher than that. They probably weigh almost a ton. Maybe half a ton. Somewhere between half a ton and a ton. I'm hedging. I know it's a wide variance, but I'm hedging with that because I can't remember the actual math rule here, and I don't like math. Me and math don't get along. So the thing weighs 5 times more than I do, easily. They're going to fall just 6 feet. Their joints and their arms and their muscles, everything is going to take way more force than I would falling a comparable one, because there's just so much more momentum behind it. So tripping a giant will work. But that momentum also plays into another strength. You know, they're the nigh unstoppable juggernaut. That's also offensively. They don't even need a weapon. They could quite literally, as Chad points out in his video, just get some pointy boots. They don't even need pointy boots. Just you know, nice steel toe boots. Maybe put some steel banding on their shins, and they can just sprint through enemy formations. Just punting things as they're running. Because they get so much momentum going, they'll just keep running with all of that weight behind them. It's why they seem slow. There's a lot of weight. But once they get moving, they get a lot of speed going because of, again, momentum. So you'd be using giants much the same as you'd use shock cavalry. Giants are nuts. Giants are terrifying on this. And we haven't even gotten into some really crazy stuff. This is just really boring things you can do with giants. Because you can do this with anything big. I mean, an ogre, which is... I'll probably do a video about them too. But an ogre is only about 7 to 8 feet in fantasy. You can do the same thing with an ogre you can with a giant. It's just giants are more so. So they'll just smash through everything in front of them, and you basically can't kill them. Unless you trip them somehow. That's doable, but it gets a little more complicated. The one thing I see enemies doing, and this is probably the biggest weakness a giant is going to have, this is also a bonus, is that they're going to attract a lot of enemy fire. And I mean a lot. You fire a couple hundred arrows at a giant, and if he doesn't have a shield, and this is probably why giants would probably keep a shield, just, you know, hold it up by their face to keep their head safe, because that's the one part they're afraid of getting injured in, is just getting a lucky arrow through the frickin' eye. That's the one thing they'd have to worry about. You fire a couple hundred arrows, one's going to get in there. You're going to get, by statistics, one is going to fly through its eyeball, and there goes the giant. And while this is most certainly a boon, you're running into the same problem the Carthaginians did using war elephants. While they attract an awful lot of fire, you lose an awful lot of them because they're attracting all of this fire. And it's a serious problem. So, while it's a great boon that all of your other soldiers aren't taking fire and dying, you're losing giants. Every time you fight, you're going to be losing giants solely because of how much fire they attract. But yeah, giants are nuts. And now we can get into sieges. Giants are siege engines! Giants are one-being siege engines. Their sling is firing rock, like slightly smaller trebuchet rocks. And they're doing it way faster. They'll just, oh, here, give me a pile of rocks, guys. Whoop, there goes one. Whoop, there goes another one. Whoop, there goes another one. And they're probably throwing it almost the same range. Possibly farther. I mean, the sling is huge. That sling is massive. And at worst, they're throwing the same range as the trebuchet. But now you don't have to build a trebuchet. Now you can fire way faster because the trebuchet, you gotta reload, you gotta crank it back down, you gotta set it all back up. The giant just picks up a rock, puts it in a sling, flicks it behind his head, and if he's using the shorter version, the quick fire one, he just flicks it over his shoulder and he doesn't have to spin it around. But even if he's spinning it around, it's just And load, spin, release. Pick up, spin, release. It's, what, 10 seconds? I mean, we're talking 10 seconds, maybe 20, for him to just keep rolling. The problem you're going to run into is you're going to run out of rocks. This is going to be a new problem. You're going to run out of rocks for them to keep shooting. And on top of this, they're going to be way more accurate than a trebuchet. Trebuchets are just lobbing rocks. We kind of know where they're going. You got pretty good at trimming it. But you go to a giant, hey, I want you to hit that gate. Can you hit the gate for me? Oh, I can hit the gate for you. And you just get like 5 or 6 of them, they just start lobbing rocks at the gate. They'll probably punch a hole through the thing. And speaking of gates, you could just have one giant holding a tree. And he looks like he's got a SWAT battering ram now. I mean, he'll look like, actually, just get to him. And they have the SWAT battering ram. They just slam it in there. Who needs anything else? Now, the problem is how do they cover themselves? That's where you need some other giants with some shields over their heads. But giants don't care. They don't really give a crap about most of the damage you're taking. And on top of this, okay, you got a 12-foot giant. Alright. He'll just pull the siege, he'll pull a siege tower up to that wall for you. They did it with elephants. He'll do the same thing. He'll just push the thing up there for you, and off you go. And then he'll just sit there with, like, maybe give him a big spiked club, and he'll just swing it at the wall to keep people away from actually getting to the siege tower. I mean, he doesn't need much. He'll just take a stick, give him like a 10-foot stick, and he'll just whack it up there. Because he doesn't have to swing with any real force, because the minimum force he's swinging could probably crack someone's skull. There's the positives of giants far outweigh any possible negatives I can see, because the only negatives I can see are lots of ditches to make them trip and break things. It's the same defense you can use against horses, to be honest. Horses don't do real well with gopher holes and things like that. I mean, that's effectively what these are. Giants would have giant gopher holes, and you'll break their legs, crack their ankles. It's very messy. It's very unpleasant. Just crap tons of longbow fire, or just any ranged fire, in order to just hit them in the face. Unless you get guns, then fantasy with guns is very different, and I'm not going to go into that, because guns will probably work way better. You just need to fire more into them to cause more holes. Because if it's like a 22 round, you're probably going to need a couple more of those. So yeah, you got that. You got tripping them through varying means, so giant sets of bolas? Maybe? I don't know, maybe like a... I don't think bolas would work. You need to have a couple of guys with like some riders with some stakes, and they ride in front of the giant and just slam them down, and then the giant trips over the rope in between them. That might work. And then the last one, the ballista. And this is something I'm a little sad Shad didn't cover in more detail, but he was talking more about tactics than anything else than just direct weaponry. But a ballista, it fell out of favor in the medieval period because we got, trebuchets, and to an extent, torsion catapults, nice things like that. The ballista just wasn't necessary anymore. But if we're fighting a friggin' a double-sized human, or dragons, or ridiculous things in fantasy settings, I don't think the ballista's ever going to actually leave. Now, you might not have those giant, monstrous things you see in, like, Medieval 2, but you'll have something, I personally believe, more akin to a sized-up Roman scorpion. Basically, arbalist crossbows. Just big, honking crossbows that are effectively siege equipment at this point. They're so big, you kind of have to cart them around on wheels and stuff. That would stop a giant. It has so much power, you can make the entire bolt or quarrel, depending on your preferred terminology, out of metal, and then just spear the sucker right into it. It could have so much force behind it that it would just simply punch right into him. And that's what you need to do. You just need to get it in there. And these can have so much more, like I said, you can have more poundage than a longbow. A longbow won't have it. Even a handheld crossbow won't. Until you get to the, like, windlass crossbows or whatever. But you can make ballistas with as much force as a windlass crossbow with a lower tech level. So you don't need to get all these nice cranks or arbalist crossbows. You just have a bigger crossbow to do it for you. Is it elegant? No. Does it work for adventurers? No. This is a large-scale battlefield weapon, and that is what we're talking about here. So that's why that gets an approval. I'll give the Scorpion an approval, too, because it's got a fair bit of torque behind it, and apparently the Romans used them for sniping, and one guy can wield it. So he just kind of picks it up with his big tripod thing, runs off, sets it up. He can actually take aim, and he could fire. I mean, even if he doesn't hit the thing in the eye, I think that'll have higher poundage and probably carry more force than a standard longbow, just because of how it's set up. So that the bolt will, if it hits in the giant in the neck, it's gonna do something. I think it'll just cause more damage. So you'd see far more ballistas and scorpions on the battlefield than you would in a traditional medieval one. Right up until you start getting giants in any form of plate or any serious amount of armor. I mean, you see a giant in full chainmail. I don't think anything shy of the ballista is going to punch through that. You're going to have to start honestly getting mangonels and actually throw rocks at them then. Or just trip them. Because they'll have even more mass now with the amount of that. And the only thing I see stopping all giants from running around in all of that armor is just the expense. Oh my god, a mail shirt for a giant would cost a fortune. It'd be insane. But at the same time, it would make them basically unkillable if you wanted to pay for it. It would be horrifying. Let alone putting a giant in full plate. I don't know how you'd stop that. I honest to God don't. Other than straight up tripping it. And honestly, a giant in full plate probably isn't going to let itself get tripped. It's probably going to be a bit slower, just out of caution. That's giants as I see them. So let's give giants a final rating here. A+. Their weaknesses are so minor. The biggest one is logistics. You just gotta feed them. Okay, well, do I honestly need more than a dozen giants? If we're being honest, I could probably. What would a dozen giants do? They'd probably eat as much as, let's just say, 60 men. Yeah, I'll take the dozen giants over 60 men any day of the week. It's not even a thought. Automatic. I'd take that deal. And the benefits they bring compared to just eating a bunch and maybe some cultural quirks you have to put up with. There it is. They're like nukes. They're like medieval nukes, honestly. The only honest, straight up, the only fantasy creature I can think of offhand that's more of a weapon of mass destruction than a giant on a medieval battlefield is a dragon. And I could actually see in fantasy settings, if the enemy army has more than 6 giants, you immediately, it's just a way to end the war before it happens. And if someone manages to hire a dragon, you just give them terms. You accept the terms they give you because they have the high ground at this point. And there's nothing you can do to stop them. Alright, everybody, that'll wrap it up. Remember to share, like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. I am on Minds and BitChute. You all have a good day.